The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Hump Day, and we've got to get a clarification, CJ.
Yes.
CJ, you got some people upset.
Yes, we got people upset. Our last show we talked about how they were burying the wrong bodies in graves, and we had said the Parks Department. It was the cemetery division of Parks and Cemeteries and the cemetery workers who buried the bodies in the wrong graves. The park workers were very upset about this. So we've now corrected that for you. Not that you didn't realize that it was the cemetery workers, but
yeah, we would probably know that it's Parks and Cemeteries, and if it was something to do with the cemetery, it was probably the cemetery subdivision of that department. So, but okay. You've made your mea culpas, so
and we're always willing to correct any errors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a kind of a finite kind of breakdown.
I know.
It's kind of like saying that you know, that the traffic division did something in the police department rather than the Fall River Police, department. And if you want to be that specific, and I can tell because I guess the heat was on, and I guess the word was that our pal was already moving on to another job. The guy who got into the cemetery department, totally unqualified, with absolutely no qualifications, and we actually had somebody on a show talking about that, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So we were, we try to get out as much information as possible. So what's next? Oh, Mayor Correa gets donation bumps from marijuana businesses and everybody else who wants to pay to play. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, I don't even know. Look, he's doing it. Unfortunately, it's legal. It just goes to show how politics, they allow things that are legal for politicians that aren't legal for anybody else, I mean, this is just a donation is a euphemism for kickback. And because they make it to something, they attach some kind of title to this, like it's going into your campaign fund or your legal defense fund, then it's okay. You're telling me that the people don't know? You can't figure this out, that when people give the maximum donation, and then you've got people, and they list them here, and they list their occupations, and it's like the maximum legally allowed in a year, $1,000 donation, and some of these people are, well, you could say, okay, you get the contractor, you get a bookkeeper. Bookkeepers don't normally give $1,000, and laborers. It's just like the time, wasn't there a period there when everybody that worked at Primacare, or virtually everybody, that's what we were told, virtually everybody that was employed at Primacare gave $500, a $500 donation.
That was during the Flanagan administration.
That's right.
Yep.
And you're going to tell me that a janitor's going to give a mayor $500? You're going to tell me that wasn't a veiled contribution from the Primacare group?
Well, so far,
I mean, that's my theory, so, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's me that's being foolish, because when you find every single person down to the janitor is giving the maximum allowable donation at the time, you kind of got to wonder, really? I mean, what's the mayor going to do for a janitor?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you right now, so far this year,
unless they get a job as a janitor in government center at a higher pay.
So far this year, in 2018, Correa's reported $18,000 in $1,000 donations from individuals identify in OCPF reports as being associated with Primacare. So 18 people gave $1,000 from Primacare.
Yeah.
I guess maybe they did that way they could get their overhead bridge built over Pleasant Street for the parking garage.
Well, look, I've never seen pay to, we've all seen, we've all seen and know it's a fact of political life, the pay to play situation, just like the major campaign donors on the federal level. The pharmaceutical companies are still running rampant, even though we've heard our wonderful politicians complaining and whining all the time about the pharmaceuticals. Actually, I was watching that senatorial debate in Rhode Island between Sheldon Buffer, White House, and the other guy. And he started talking about pharmaceutical companies, which is really comical when you think about it. How long have we been discussing the fact that everybody in the United States is getting raped and pillaged by the pharmaceutical companies? Cancer drugs go up 1,200%. Insulin goes up like a zillion percent. You would know the actual figures on that one.
I believe it's 600% at this point.
600%. EpiPens go up like 600%. And obviously they should be going down because they've been around for a while, well, and their manufacturing processes and stuff should be actually make a drug cheaper, But they went up. Why? Because they're allowed to. And then you add that to the fact that every single political hack that's in Washington D.C. who held those hearings, by the way, when they had the CEO that jumped up the EpiPen, and whose father just happened to be a senator, I believe from West Virginia, my memory serves me correctly. And they do their war dance, and and their obligatory outrage, and they start this is outrageous, this is that, and as our friend Terry Sullivan so aptly put it, and I use him all the time because it was a great line that I overheard. I think you were sitting there with me at the time when he said, "Don't worry about it. Just keep your mouth shut. It'll blow over. Everybody will forget about this in a month or two. They'll be on to something else.
Keep your head down and your mouth shut.
Keep your head down and your mouth shut, and it'll go away, even though you actually committed fraud. You actually filled out and charged a department for overtime that the individual didn't work it, and so you falsified payroll records. You committed fraud. And what happened? Nothing. Matter of fact, he might have got a pay raise in the interim, because that's what always happens. Because, and it's just like Washington. As I said last night, Sheldon, now he will be affectionately known from this day forward as Senator Buffer. He was talking. He got into pharmaceuticals again. Well, what have they done about pharmaceuticals? How long ago was the guy that jacked up the cancer drugs and basically told all the senators and congressmen to go, themselves?
That's it.
I own a company. I'm doing it. I don't care if I kill people. They can't afford it. Let them die. Who cares? You don't think everybody in Washington knows that you can get any American drug anywhere else in the world cheaper? Anywhere from 33% to almost 90% cheaper?
Well,
and does that seem right to you? That alone, when you have to go to the pharmacy, or your mother or your grandmother, and then choose between taking medications and eating, and our government will not step on these people. They can sell their drugs in Australia, in England, in Cuba, anywhere else in the world for a third, a quarter, a half, 90% less, and still make a profit. But they bend over the American public. And what do? We re-elect these nitwits. Not me, because I never vote for them. But the fact is, these people stay in there forever because they talk about it during an election, or they'll have a hearing when there's public outrage. But then the public doesn't remain outraged. As Terry said, keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, it'll go away.
Right.
Well, the cancer guy, I think they stuck him in jail for a little while, but who cares? Did the prices go down?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
You know, so it's like, what have they accomplished? Absolutely nothing.
And I mean,
Except do what they do best, make a lot of noise, and get nothing done.
you know, when you look at drug costs, let's take insulin, for instance.
Okay.
$300 for a vial of insulin. Back in 1980, 1990, 2000, it was $26 a vial. It hasn't changed. The production hasn't changed.
Yeah.
And we're up to $300 a vial. And then you got diabetics out there. Oh, as a matter of fact, a big story recently was about one young diabetic male who was rationing his insulin, and he's dead because of it.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that story. It was on the national news.
Right.
Actually.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is what happens. You know, we have to have people rationing their medication.
And his parent didn't even know that.
Right. Because he couldn't afford it. I mean, because when you consider the fact that you go through 2 or 3 vials of insulin a month at $300 a vial, that's $1,000 a month.
Yeah, and remember, when you said in 1980 it was $26.
Right.
Remember how much $26 could buy you in 1980.
Exactly.
So $26 in 1980, you know, if you look at this $300 price tag, you go, wow, I mean, this is ridiculous. And I mean, $26 a vial. And look at the profit. I don't know. I remember that CEO that jumped up the EpiPen. She got what was it? An $18 million pay raise.
Yep.
When she did that, 18 million, not 18,000. I mean, Fall River, we give them these paltry like $40,000 pay raises and $20,000 pay raises. You know, that's chump change. I mean, in Fall River, that's big money because that's more than most people make annually. But we only give them, you know, we only give them 7 figures. These people are giving them, you know, 8 figures.
Yeah, exactly.
And the CEO of CVS Care Less, his annual salary, it may be up now, but I haven't checked it in a few because we're dumping CVS Care Less. But his annual salary is, you ready, everybody? Don't, make sure you're stable in your chair. You might fall out. I've said it before in case you don't remember. $32.8 million a year. $32.8 million a year. No human being on this planet is worth that much money. But then again, look what we have. We have nurses complaining because they can't get staffing, and who's against it?
The hospitals.
The management and the board of directors, most of whom are making high 6 figures for showing up at a board meeting maybe once every couple of months or once a month or maybe only once a year. They're pulling down salaries, doing nothing for patient care. And who gets victimized? You, the patient. The nurses have to struggle, overtaxed, overworked. So, as I said before, I'm voting yes on question 1. But, you know, we see that every day in everything. The big money just, it's always stepping on the, the workers can't get any money, and the businesses make. Now, the marijuana businesses, again, look, they're giving them a donation. Everybody's loving marijuana. Well, the hell with the side effects, right? I mean, how many accidents have we seen? And we see so many people driving impaired. There's not even, as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, CJ, they still haven't devised a competent method to do something that along the lines of a field sobriety test like they do with alcohol.
No, there's the only way
For marijuana, and now we're going to sell this stuff to people who, by definition, our society no longer, they have the attention span of gnats. You can't get them, how can they can't concentrate on the road. They're going to be on their cell phone, smoking a bone, you know, and they're gonna kill somebody, and everybody's gonna go, oh, that was terrible, you know. What did they do? Over the Columbus Day holiday, Rhode Island made, I forgot how many, 18 arrests. And they said some of those people were stopped, fortunately. They got them before they killed somebody. There were a few of them that were apprehended when they were doing over 100 miles an hour. Who cares? Hey. Nobody cares. The politicians don't care because they're protecting themselves in case they get, but there are no mandatory sentences. There are countries where there's virtually no drunken driving, no impaired driving. Why? You get busted for that, you get 10 years in jail. You know, the second time you get busted, you get life. Some places they execute you. Well, a little harsh, but guess what?
It works.
It works. How many times on TV have we seen somebody up there driving drunk, killing someone, and it was their 8th or 9th or 12th DUI?
We had that in the paper recently about a gentleman who had 10 or 11, was his 10th or 11th OUI.
Well, look at this kid that killed a young father, driving a truck from a company that supposedly the company, and I can see why they're saying it, it may or may not be accurate, but they said that he didn't have permission to drive a company truck. And he was 3 sheets to the wind.
Right.
And he killed a young father.
Yep.
And now he's standing there in court like, oh, well, you know, so, you know, I got an excuse. I was drunk. No, you don't. Far as, like I said, I've said it before and I've said it again. These politicians are nothing. They are the problem. They're not the solution. They've proven it. They're the problem. But as far as I'm concerned, anybody that gets in a motor vehicle drunk and kills somebody is guilty of premeditated murder. As far as I'm concerned, they should be prosecuted for first-degree murder.
You know, I'm not going to argue with you there, but, you know.
Because, you know, and that's my opinion. I know all the legal scholars will call up and say that, you know, you can't do that. The ACLU will be down here, you know, but I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, that's premeditation. You know you're getting drunk. You know you're 3 sheets to the wind. And you get in that car and you murder somebody. It's not an accident. You murdered somebody.
You know, I agree with you, Chip. But again, you know, we're saying it's the politicians' fault. It is. But it's also the voters' fault.
Well,
because they keep putting them back in office.
You're right.
People are all saying, I want to get rid of all of these politicians. Not mine.
No, I can call him.
Yeah.
My cousin knows him pretty good.
That's right.
I can call him. I can get a call. He might be able to do something for me.
That's right.
So everybody drain their swamp.
But
I'll just leave my cesspool alone.
Exactly.
And that's what we see.
Well, you know, you spoke about drugs in your monologue here.
Yeah.
And you're part of this mess, from what I understand.
Yeah, I am part of it, and I am telling you, I am actually livid about this newspaper article. I'm very, very, and when I talk to Joe Good, I'm going to tell her she should have, according to, and I spoke to Joe Castro because my phone blew up. I got tons of text messages. My cell phone was ringing. My house phone was ringing. My email was blitzed. And I knew nothing about this. There was a plan in place, and I'm going to say this at tomorrow's retirees meeting because I actually spoke about the potential of going to this plan at last month's retirees meeting, which we had a very good attendance, by the way. It was very good for September meeting. And But I told them we would give them a complete update. Now, we had meetings, Joe and I, we went over numbers, then we met with the entire Public Employee Committee, PEC.
That's Joe Castro, right?
We went over it. That's the committee created by Chapter 32B, Sections 21 through 23. They deal with it. And we had a plan in conjunction with the city. We were going to go over this at tomorrow's monthly retirees meeting, give everybody the specifics. The city was preparing a letter to inform everybody. We were going to have a breakfast. Actually, tomorrow I was bringing representatives down from the benefits management company that's going to manage this, so they'd explain it, who's working in conjunction with Humana. And we had a plan to get this information out so there wouldn't be any misinformation. This article is not accurate, and I'm going to tell Joe Good, and according to Joe Castro, he was called by her. But I don't believe that he should have given any information out. He should have made the fact, but that's, I've told him that. And the fact is, the city's not happy. We're not happy. The reality is that but Joe did say that he told her to call me and also call the city. And she did neither, because I got a call from Madeline Coelho, Director of Human Resources. She was livid because their phone lines were melting yesterday from people calling up about this, and it's not. The numbers are wrong. The 141.44 rather than 152 is it's way off. That's the, and I won't even go into the explanation tomorrow at the meeting, and then it'll be explained thoroughly by the city, by us in the proper venue. We want to inform the people affected by this plan first. This was wrong. This is almost, well, pseudo fake news because it's not accurate. And I thought that the paper had an obligation, especially when it comes to retirees who have the least amount of money. And remember, 60% of the retirees in this city are living on a retirement of less than $25,000 a year. That's gross.
Well, the interesting thing is that article brought up is that you have a physician's prescription benefits
manager. Yeah, well, the city did. We didn't have anything to do with that.
Here's the funny part about it. All of these companies, Humana, CVS Careless, you name a company that does drug services, they have their own benefits management part. That's part of their contract. But the city is going to pay another company to manage the benefits? Why? And in Rhode Island, one of the candidates for office turned around and said, and the one thing I'm going to get rid of is the benefits management company because it adds on 20 to 25% more to the contract.
And I heard, I heard the tail end of that because you and I were discussing it. You called me up to let me know it was on, and I appreciate that. And you're right. And these are the kind of things that, there will be questions asked about this. Obviously, this is the package. And again, when you save money and reduce the experience, it's good for everybody because it keeps the prices down. The hardest thing in the world is to keep medical costs down. And you can't ever not get increases, but you can minimize it. And that's what we try to do. And the PEC and the IAC work very diligently to do that. And, they all work hard, and they all, understand because they represent their memberships, and they know how difficult it is because of these high costs. So a lot of work went into this. It was too bad that that this got muddied, because what happens is you put numbers in like this, and this is almost a 100% increase of what they're paying now, and of course you had retirees going ballistic because that number is not correct. And I'm not going to get into any numbers because I'm going to have the entire all the specifics at the meeting. If you're a retiree and you're watching, if you're a municipal retiree and the school teachers, because sometimes the teachers, because they have a separate system, they don't get the word as much. You can join the municipal retirees because you are a municipal retiree. Your pension is through a separate entity. It's not part of the city, but you are a municipal retiree, and we have teachers who have been members of the retirees organization. And come, listen, you get a monthly update of what's going on this and every other issue that affects you as a retiree. It's the best $10 for a year you've ever spent. And then again, you might win a raffle and win $5, and you can buy, and you get free. You can buy a donut and a coffee for $1. So it's the best deal in town, and you really should join, because remember one thing: once you retire, unless you're together, you're by yourself. You don't only have a union. You don't have any union protection. The only protection you have is your group, which is the Fall River Municipal Retirees Association. So please, if you're watching, come. And if you have a friend, tell him to come.
Well, the other thing is I've already been hit with a few questions from that article, and that was, am I going to be able to use my same drugstore? Am I going to be able to get my drugs from the same place? And again, these are all questions people are having. You are
100% right, CJ. I mean, obviously, you deal with this in a medical field all the time in the industry. All these questions were going to be answered. We had people there. We were there. We've got the formularies. We can begin to show them how they can check for their drugs. We also have a contingency plan if one of the drugs isn't in the formulary. We've made comparisons. There was a lot of work that went into preparing for this, even though we did it under the gun and in a short amount of time. And it's too bad that this article jumped the gun and made it more. It's always difficult, because no matter how hard you try, you can never get the information to 100% of the people.
I hear,
But there was a plan to get it to as many people as we could, and everybody was on board. And it was too bad that this article, basically jumped the gun. I wish Joe would have waited until after, that meeting. She could have called, or she could have even come to that meeting if she really wanted to. We've allowed her to come to meetings. The last time we had a major issue in healthcare, we allowed her to come to the meeting and then ask some questions before we went into the specifics and stuff. So it's too bad. It caused a tremendous amount of consternation amongst the retirees, and I'm sorry that happened, but I'll tell you what, it wasn't our fault. We had no intention of releasing it, and what disturbs me is it's not even accurate.
Right.
That's what really disturbs me.
That's the one thing that causes more problems.
Yep.
Because now they got numbers out there, and everyone thinks, like you said, that they're paying 100 times more or 100 times less, or whatever the case may be. And if the numbers aren't right, then whose fault is it? Is it Joe Castro's? Is it Joe Good's? Is it yours? Is it the PEC's? Is it the IAC? Whose fault is it?
Yeah. Well, that is a number, but that's not the number of their premium.
Right.
See, the thing is that we didn't have the complete set of numbers yet. They're fine-tuning it, and I've requested to have a breakdown with the 75, 25, and all this other stuff for the meeting. And, like I say, it's like politics. You throw the first mud ball, it can be full of lies, and the problem is 100% of the people read the lies, and maybe only 15 or 20% of the people read the retraction.
That's true.
And this is the problem. We're going to spend time that we should be spending addressing, the transition and how we're going to do it and try to make it seamless. We're going to have to spend the time on trying to explain this away.
Yeah, well, and that's going to be the thing. You're going to be spending half your time trying to correct the errors.
That's right. Well, have a good one, everybody. Hope you enjoyed your Columbus Day, and we will see you on Friday. And stay angry, and if you're not angry, watch the political debates and read the paper.
There's nothing in the paper. It's all sports news. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you on Friday.